everything that we know, everything we think we know, comes to us due to assumptions. Assumptions that we must make in order to survive in the world. These are all centered around time and space, so that everything that we see has a duration, is located at a distance. This basic assumption of time and space is how we function in the world. And that includes this body-mind that we've taken ourselves to be. This body-mind has a unique position in space and time relative to everything else around us. This body-mind has a duration, has a beginning, will have an end. And as this body-mind, we are cut off from the world, surrounded by it, yet somehow not of the world, somehow observing the world from within this protected cocoon of a body-mind. We observe the world going on around us. This is our experience of the world through the looking glass of our assumptions. It all happens so automatically that we don't even notice these assumptions at work. They're solidified so much that we don't even have to question them. They operate as we go through our day, make decisions. Without these solid assumptions in place, we wouldn't be able to function. We wouldn't be able to cross the street. We wouldn't be able to go to work, make a living. Yet the reality that is indicated by non-duality is quite different than our normal experience of the world, what we think is our experience of the world. The reality indicated by non-duality is oneness, one without a second, not two. Oneness. Oneness means everything that we see is one thing, one substance, one presence. And that includes the body, that includes the mind. Everything is one presence or one substance. And as a conceptual understanding, compared against our assumptions, that is impossible to believe, it is impossible to take hold of. So therefore we wrestle with these paradoxes, we struggle with them to the point of frustration. We constantly try to fit them into our conceptual framework of beliefs. So the spiritual search is simply a constant frustration. We never quite get what we're supposed to get. We never quite see what apparently we're supposed to see. And that's because we are missing the point. We are trying to fit this paradox into this hardened set of beliefs. The point is that the hardened set of beliefs are the illusion. The hardened set of beliefs, the framework through which we see the world, is mistaken. The body-mind we've taken ourselves to be, and the world that we believe we live in, is not as it seems. And this is not some science fiction movie. This is not some mystical revelation. This is simply reality without the assumptions, reality without the conceptual framework. But because it's reality, it can't be something that comes later. It can't be something that's realized and then all of a sudden appears differently than what we're experiencing right this very moment. Because it's reality, it is present now. If it's not present now, it can't be reality. Reality can't be something that comes in the future. Reality, by definition, must be what is here now. So what's being pointed to is not something that will come due to a successful spiritual search, due to properly fitting the pointers of non-duality into our existing conceptual framework. The realization of reality as it is in looking at not what we see, but how we see, how we know. How is it that we know the world? How is it that we know this body-mind? How is it that we know the sense of ourself? How do we even know it? Not what is it, not is it separate, but how do we know it at all? By what means do we know it? We know the world via some means of knowledge. The world comes to us through senses. We call this perception. Everything that we know about the world comes to us as a perception. The wall is a perception. The chair is a perception. The lamp, the floor, the table, the computer screen is a perception. It comes to us via a perception. In other words, it is an experience. The wall is an experience. The computer screen is an experience. Everything that we know about the world comes to us as an experience, as a perception. So what we are is aware of the experience of the world. What we are is always the subject to the object of the world. Whatever the world might be in this moment, whatever it might be appearing as, what we are is always the subject to the world. And we can say the same thing about the body. The body is an object. It appears to us. We know of a body because of some means of knowledge. The body is a perception. It appears as an experience. We see hands, we see legs, we see a torso. The body is an object, and what we are is the subject, always to that object. We objectify the body. And the body is also sensation. We feel the body. We feel the legs. We can feel the heartbeat. We can feel the breathing. We can feel an itch, or we can feel sensations. So the body is a bundle of sensations and perceptions. The body is an object. It appears to what you are. You are the subject to that object. The same can be said for thoughts. Thoughts come and go. How do you know they come and go? Because you see them. They are objects to you, the subject. You objectify thoughts. Always, you are the witness of thoughts. No matter what the content of thoughts are at any moment, no matter if they're happy thoughts or sad thoughts, or thoughts of seeking, or thoughts of clarity, thoughts of frustration and confusion, whatever the content of thought is at any moment, you are always the subject to that object. You objectify thoughts. The world, the body, the thoughts are all objects to you, to what you are, the subject. You are always the subject. You have always been the subject. No matter what the experience has ever been in a lifetime of experiences, what has remained the same has been you as that subject of all of it. And you as that subject have not changed. The body has changed constantly. It has gotten older. It has changed shape. It has grown hair. It has grown fingernails. The appearance has changed. The content of thought has changed constantly. But that subject, I, what we mean by I, that subject has never changed. So this is what they mean when they say the reality of what you are never changes. The ultimate subject in any experience is you. Always you. As such, what you are does not appear. That subject cannot appear. Because if it appeared, it would be another object, and there would have to be another subject to see it, to witness it, to objectify it. What you are does not appear. It does not take shape. It is not describable with an attribute. It has no color, no shape, no size. It has no duration. Therefore, it is timeless. It is prior to time. That subject, I, is not appearing. It is always the subject to everything, and everything else is what we call the world, the body, and the mind. This is what we mean when we say I, isn't it? Isn't this the true I? Isn't this what you really are? Isn't this I really not a thing? Isn't this I really a condition, a ground of all experiences? The necessity for any experience to arise? Isn't this ultimate subject I, isn't that changeless? Does that ever change? If there is a calamity going on in the world, if there is a problem with the body, if there are thoughts which are upset, suffering, worried, confused, frustrated, is this subject I ever affected by any of that? Is it ever touched by it? Is it involved in that relative activity? Or isn't it simply the witness of these things? We may say that this subject I is sort of like the movie screen. The light is projected on the movie screen and it becomes an interesting picture of characters moving about. And we forget about the screen. We forget about the background. We forget about the untouched screen upon which these appearances are flashing. Yet if we turn off the film, there's the screen. We bring the attention back to the ground of the experience called film, called movie. We notice that screen, and that screen is obvious. We didn't have to go looking for the screen, it was always there. We were just focused on the pictures, the moving pictures. Yet the pictures would not have been seen if it were not for that screen. The same with the self or the I. The subjectivity is necessary for the object to arise. That unchanging ground of experiencing itself is always the most intimate aspect of any experience. It is always present even if we don't notice it, even if we don't pay attention to it. It is always the most intimate aspect of any experience, whatever that experience might be, whatever the content of experience is. The fact or function of experiencing is always primary. That ultimate subjectivity is what you are. Not appearing as a thing, but aware of everything that appears. Just notice this right now. Notice that subjectivity. Notice that the body-mind has been identified with as the source of that subjectivity. Yet we know that the body-mind appears in the subjectivity itself. The subjectivity doesn't change while the body-mind is constantly changing. It's impermanent. And nothing needs to be done to find this subjectivity. Nothing needs to be done to locate it. It's just pointed out. What you really are, your true self, is that subject seer of everything that is seen. Yet we started this by talking about non-duality, about oneness, about reality is one. And as the subject, as the ultimate subject, as the I, which does not appear yet, is the most intimate aspect of any experience, we are then the witness. We are the witness of the world. That's two things. That's a witness and a world. A witness and a body. A witness and thoughts. It's still two things. We know the witness does not suffer. We know the witness does not appear, is not subject to the comings and goings of the world. The comings and goings of the world are dependent on that ultimate subjectivity. Yet we're still talking about a concept of the subject and the object. This equation is duality itself. As we look out, we may no longer identify with the body, identify with the mind. Our identity will correctly lie with that ultimate subjectivity. Yet that's still identification. That's still a subject and an object. Oneness means there is no subject or object. Oneness is all. Subject and object collapses. So as the subject, we are seeing an object of some kind. Thoughts, body, mind. Yet if we examine closely, if we lay aside our assumptions, we still have some remaining assumptions of distance, of duration. If we lay those aside for one moment, that wall, where does that wall appear? It appears over there. That's our assumption showing its head. It appears over there. Does it appear over there? Where does it appear? That wall appears right here. Where does the hand appear? Right here. Where do the thoughts appear? Where is this voice known from? Right here. The perception and sensation that is experience is experienced right here. Right here on the screen of perception or awareness. It appears equal. It appears with no distance. It appears without the assumption of duration. It appears right here. Equal to this hand, this thought, this voice, that wall, that mountain, the moon. Those perceptions do not appear outside of this awareness or this consciousness, whatever we want to call it. This ultimate subjectivity is not other than the objectivity itself. The subjectivity is appearing as the objectivity. that screen is non-existent. That screen is the subjectivity itself. That subject I is the world. That voice, those thoughts, the hands, the computer screen, that wall, that mountain, that moon, appear as a unified totality which includes or is not other than that subjectivity. Separation has always been only an assumption. This pure witnessing is the world itself. Experiencing is the experience. And contained in that experience is the idea of an experiencer. The subject experiencer. And the object which is experienced. That subject-object equation collapses. And that's not really accurate because it never really was. It was never there to collapse. This wholeness, this limitlessness has always been the case. It's simply recognized, realized. What you are is the world itself.